Good evening. Welcome into a brand new edition of Crunch Time Nightly here on ASTV Productions. I am Michael Wags, Wagon Connect, alongside Joe Hamilton and Scott Tobin. Guys, it has been a beautiful day outside here. It does not feel like winter. It feels almost like spring here. And ironically, spring training fully open today. Coincidence or no?
Yeah, it was a good day. It definitely felt like the first day of spring training.
Yeah, it did. And it was nice today to not actually wake up to sub-zero temperatures. Well, not sub-zero. I guess I'm being a little too harsh there, but it was pretty bad. So I hope we don't have to deal with that again.
The only Sub-Zero I want to be seeing is Sub-Zero on the big screen when the new Mortal Kombat movie comes out. And have you guys seen the trailer for the new Mortal Kombat movie?
I haven't.
I knew it was out. I have not seen it yet.
Oh my gosh. The one that came back out, 1995 was kind of campy and kind of stayed a little true to the video game. This one's rated R, and it is going to have all the blood, guts, and gore that you can ever hope for in a Mortal Kombat movie. The trailer looks pretty damn good, so if you haven't seen it, check it out. It's coming out, I believe, middle of April to theaters and HBO Max, and I tell you what, I think that's going to be the one movie that I'm going to target to be my return to movie theaters because I want to see that on the big screen.
Talking about movies real quick and trailers, and it's not coming out to movies, but it is coming out to HBO Max. Dude, I cannot wait for the new Justice League movie. That thing is going to be so bad.
You know what I can't wait for? When's Maverick supposed to come out? You know, the Top Gun, I guess, sequel.
They keep pushing it back.
Yeah, they keep pushing it back, and just like Scott, I'm very interested to see the Zack Snyder Justice League cut, just to see how much worse it could have been. I don't know.
No, I said bad. I meant bad in like it's gonna be badass because that thing it's gonna be killer, dude. There's gonna be so much stuff. I mean, it's not even gonna be the same movie that came out in movie theaters. I mean, there's so many new parts. There's so many different things. It's gonna be crazy. So many new people in it.
Well, and just seeing the trailer too, it definitely did not look at all like the Justice League movie that came out. And talking about guys that are going to be in it, just the fact that, the Jared Leto Joker is going to be in it, but he actually looks better. And yes, it's a dream sequence that he's a part of, so it's not technically the real movie, but it is still a crucial part of the plot. I'm interested to see it for sure. I'm ready to set aside 3.5, 4 hours to really dive into it, and hopefully it's a DC movie worth watching.
I think it's gonna be. I'm really interested to see. I know we're gonna get to sports here in a second, but I don't know if you saw it. Zack Snyder said today that at the very end of that movie, there's a cameo that's gonna blow everybody's minds. Like nobody's gonna see it coming. So it's gonna be really interesting to see who that is that pops up at the end of this movie. There's lots of rumors that it may be Ryan Reynolds returning as the Green Lantern.
Oh man, if that's a resurgence that they could make happen, and just think he'd be on DC and Marvel because he's coming back as Deadpool in the Marvel universe.
Right.
So, wow. I don't know. Like I kind of want to see Ryan Reynolds redeemed with the Green Lantern, but I don't know if I want to see the Green Lantern as Ryan Reynolds. I want to see maybe them go a different direction, but it could be. That's a pretty badass cameo if they're able to pull that off.
Who played the Green Lantern in, I hate to jump on you, Scott, but who played in the original not the original Spider-Man, but in the Spider-Man movie, who played the Green Lantern?
Nobody? You mean the Green Goblin?
I mean oh my God, I'm an idiot. Okay, I'm done. Shut up. I'll shut up.
That was Willem Dafoe, and there's rumors that he's might be reprising his role as the Green Goblin in the new Spider-Man movie too.
How many Spider-Man movies are they going to make?
A lot.
They keep making money.
Is it Tom Holland?
Tom Holland's going to be in the new one. But okay. How many characters from the old Spider-Man trilogies are coming, or at least rumored to be in this new one? It's crazy if all the people show up that they say are going to show up.
Yeah, because right now there's the rumors that Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield are rumored to play a role in this. Jamie Foxx is rumored to reprise his role as Electro. You've got Alfred Molina being projected to be Doc Ock. possibly a Harry Osborn return, possibly a Green Goblin return. Who knows on if any of the Aunt Mays or Uncle Bens or Mary Janes are going to show up or what. This could be epic. And I've been watching WandaVision, and it's sitting ready to open up the multiverse, and that's what's happening in Marvel. It's going that direction. Obviously, the Doctor Strange movie is the multiverse of madness. So we're getting to that point where you're going to start seeing all this kind of crossover stuff, and it's going to get real confusing real quick for non-comic book fans. But it opens up so many amazing possibilities and things that we never would have thought would have happened could very well happen in the next 5 years. And I am just excited beyond belief for it.
So how bored do you think Joe is? The last 2 shows we've done, we've talked Star Wars, and now we're talking superhero movies, and he has no idea what we're talking about.
It's all right. Next show, I'll just come out and when we're all together, I'll come out and talk gangster movies and bore the hell out of you guys. Well, maybe you, Wags, but not Scott.
Why would that be boring?
Because you're more into Star Wars and everything else, and I didn't think gangster movies were your style. I didn't think you liked any of them.
Star Wars has one of the most vilest gangsters in the history of the galaxy. He's disgusting, and he put Princess Leia in a gold bikini. Jabba the Hutt could take down he could take down Sonny Corleone like that. All he'd have to do is sit on him, essentially.
He wouldn't be able to take out Tony Montana, though. Tony would snort that big pile of coke, and he'd take Jabba out.
You know, if you put Jabba up against Tony Soprano in an eating contest, that might be something that's pretty damn close as well.
There you go.
There you go. Oh, ultimate crossovers there. Star Wars and Sopranos. We could come up with some other connections as well. But you know what? We're 8 minutes into the show, and just like last time, we got to finally start talking about sports, and spring training did kick off today. We actually, if you didn't get a chance to catch it, we interviewed the general manager of the Springfield Cardinals earlier today, Dan Reeder. Very, very intriguing and insightful interview there. I know Scott wasn't able to be a part of it, but man, I tell you what, Scott, I learned a lot about the general manager of a minor league team. It's not at all what you think. There are no decision makings that are done as far as player development or anything like that by the general manager. I thought they had at least some hand in it. Not one single piece of that is his responsibility.
Yeah, and it sounds like they're like glorified PR men.
Probably a little bit. I'm going to have to go back. I want to go back and watch that tonight when we get done, because I'm sorry that I missed that. I really wanted to be a part of it, but it just didn't work out today.
Well, it went really well, and we're pretty much guaranteed a chance of being able to talk to him again, and maybe even going down to Springfield and maybe doing a remote down there as well. There's some opportunities along those lines. Although with the way COVID is still gripping the country right now, it looks like, members only probably to start the season. Maybe by midseason, they'll start allowing some people into the stadium as well. So we may have to push it to next year, but sometime in the next 365, 380 days, we'll find our way down to Springfield and make sure we're able to catch a game over at Hammons Field.
I bowl a tournament in Springfield in June. I'd like to coordinate that around June next year, because if I can do that and bowl the tournament that same weekend, it'd be a great weekend for me.
Yeah, maybe we can make that happen.
Yeah. I told him I never seen Hammons Field, and he goes, if you're a baseball fan, definitely check out a minor league park. Even if you're not a baseball fan, please check out a minor league park, because it's truly a fan experience. And I've been to Memphis, but not Springfield.
I actually got to be. I was actually in the press box in Springfield watching Chris Carpenter throw his bullpen and getting ready to try to make his comeback in 2013.
Oh, how'd you manage to pull that one off?
Luckily, knew somebody who knew somebody. Just was in the right spot at the right time. But that's a really cool ballpark, and like Joe just said, AutoZone Park in Memphis is really cool too. If you get a chance to go down there and catch a game.
Well, and what he was saying as well is now that they're under the MLB umbrella, there's going to be a lot of other really cool things coming down the pipe, especially by this time next year. We're going to be looking back and going, wow, I cannot believe they've been able to do this or been able to do that. And that's definitely something that we're going to be looking forward to. As we talked earlier about how the Player Development League is now being developed by Major League Baseball to get these minor league teams under the control of Major League Baseball franchises. And obviously we have 4. We have got AAA, AA, A, Advanced, and Single A. We talked a little bit about this earlier today, but what are your guys' thoughts on how this is going to change minor league baseball as far as guys either getting a chance, lasting longer, maybe not even lasting as long as they used to? I mean, what's the changes do you guys see possibly happening by kind of streamlining the minor league process?
I mean, some guys are not going to get as much of a chance. I don't think it's going to cut down a few guys' opportunities to advance, but I don't know that it's going to change it a whole lot because a lot of these minor league teams that aren't incorporated with major league teams now, they're starting wood bat leagues and stuff like that. So these guys are going to get a chance to go to all these new independent leagues or these leagues that have merged with other leagues and form wood bat leagues and get a chance to play it. And we know that major league teams are watching that. They find these guys if they have talent. So it may actually create even more opportunities for a few people.
Yeah, I think it's going to create, and it's going to do some good. It's going to do some bad. I mean, it's interesting how they're doing the minor leagues this year. And I asked Wag Scott, like, what would you call? Okay, we have 4 minor league teams. You got the A ball, A advanced, AA, and AAA. Right. But what do you call the A advanced team? Do you call them high A still? Because I remember there was a high A ball, but is there really a difference?
Yeah, because A ball most of the time, well, everything's changed now because you're not going to have that quick little summer league where guys went in right after they got drafted. But A league, I can't talk. A league is the lowest, and then the advanced A is kind of for the guys that are still really young. But have advanced past that lowest level, but aren't quite ready for AA. It's kind of that in between level. So it's just like a mid step between A and AA. Okay. Is basically what it is.
Okay.
Yeah, and they wanted to change up the way it sounded as well, and changing up the way the schedule works. Obviously, May 4th is going to be the opening for the Springfield Cardinals. We talked a little bit, too, about the fact that they're going to be having 6-game series and Mondays off completely. That's going to be a really interesting twist as well. What do you think about that, Scott?
It's going to be interesting. It's going to be weird to get used to, for those kids. But again, it cuts down on travel and that kind of stuff. So it's good for them because it's going to hopefully give them the opportunity to get all those games in.
Yeah, and that's exactly what Dan was talking about today is, the travel is going to be better. Everybody can travel on the same day, essentially. If for some reason something were to happen, it's really, only 2 teams are affected. You're not having to worry about this team playing this team win and all that. So a lot of positives. I like the fact that you're going to be able to have a lot of excitement, kind of build some more rivalries, get that intensity level up throughout the season as well. Just like we saw with the Blues in Arizona earlier this month. Building that intensity, that rivalry with so many games in a row. So makes a lot of sense. We're really excited about that. And once again, check out that interview anywhere you can find your podcast or here on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Those are the places that the interview is being held right now. Let's jump into spring training real quick. Today, obviously, was the first full day of spring training. Everybody with the Cardinals reported to camp today. No positives, no close contact issues as well at this point for the Cardinals, which is good news. We got to see a lot of guys in action today. Nolan Arenado obviously taking BP. You had Zach Thompson on the mound. You had Alex Reyes on the mound. Are you guys just as giddy as I am that we're seeing live baseball and games are going to be televised by next week?
Yeah, Sunday. Sunday, I can't believe that. I actually looked on my schedule on my TV just to see if they had it up yet. They don't even have it listed yet, which is kind of funny. But I just wanted to look at that and kind of smile a little bit. Like, we're getting close, man. It's like, spring training to me was somewhat boring because you had all the guys that were going to make the team. They'd probably get 1 or 2 at bats, then they'd leave. Then you get to see some of the young guys, and some of those guys aren't even going to see the green grass of the majors in their whole career. So it's going to be interesting. And he was talking today, Scott, about some of the guys that, that he wants us to keep an eye on. One of them is Dylan Carlson. Everyone's talking about Dylan Carlson. I mean, he just the work he put in, and I can't wait to see that. I can't wait to see a full season of the kid.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited. That Springfield team, if people get a chance to go see them, should be awesome because Nolan Gorman more than likely is going to be playing second base down there. And more than likely, that Springfield rotation is going to have Matthew Liberatore, Zach Thompson, and Johan Oviedo, all 3 in that rotation because they're probably all 3 going to start down there. So, I mean, that would be fun just to watch that.
Oh, no doubt. It's going to be very, very interesting to see how these guys slot out because – Memphis is obviously going to have a stacked lineup and a good rotation. And even when you trickle down to Springfield, it's not that you ever want to see guys down that low. And that's exactly what Dan said. He goes, all these guys want to play on the major league roster. We don't want to anticipate guys coming to us, but you might see these guys in that spot here, at least to start the season. And yeah, if you get a chance to go out to either Springfield or Memphis, take advantage of it. See these guys in action. You can see them before they become superstars. Obviously, guys like Matt Carpenter, we talk about Dylan Carlson. These guys are all playing at this level now. Get a chance to see them while you can. And the fact that they're bringing in 2 teams to their division, including an Arizona affiliate, and he was talking about that too. This is where Paul Goldschmidt got his start. So you might get a chance to see a guy that maybe if it's not the Cardinals in the future, maybe someone will hit the big time in the majors and you'll have gotten a chance to see him at the early stages of their career.
Yeah, I mean, I went down to Memphis when we were living down in southern Missouri. And, that Memphis team at the time, I saw Harrison Bader, Tyler O'Neill, Paul DeYoung was still on that team. Jack Flaherty was pitching the day that I was there. I saw all these guys. I spent $10. I went down on a Sunday afternoon, spent $10 and was sitting 2 rows behind home plate.
Oh my gosh. It sounds like me when I went to a Royals game when my brother was in college. We paid like $10 and sat 2 rows from the first base foul line. I think that was back in the day when Carlos Beltran was playing for the Royals still. That was in an interesting event as well. And yeah, just get a chance to interact with them because you never know what kind of connections you're going to make with those guys, and it could prove fruitful in the years to come if they do make it to the majors. And one guy that came up through the Cardinals organization, had a pretty decent career, is potentially wrapping it up after this season. I want to talk about this report that came out tonight, mainly off of an Instagram post from his wife, Deirdre. It looks like Albert Pujols may be retiring after this season. Do you guys think that's actually the case? Or is this one of those where she kind of posted that it was the last season in LA and people are running with it the way that they want to run with it?
I think with all the reports that came out after that, I think this is probably it. As bad as his foot has been the last couple of years, I think he's probably at that point. And stick with me here for a second, Waggers, because I know you put out a tag on our post that said, "I wish you could retire here." I'm going to throw on my conspiracy hat for a second.
Yay!
So the Cardinals traded Dexter Fowler to the Angels, right? What did we get for Dexter Fowler? We got a player to be named later. So just imagine for a second, we get to July 31st, the trade deadline. The Cardinals are in contention. The Angels are not. And sometime on that afternoon, we hear the announcement that Albert Pujols got traded to the Cardinals for that one last run in the postseason with Nolan Arenado and Paul Goldschmidt and Yachty and Wainwright. And they get that run through the playoffs, and the 3 of them get to ride off into the sunset together. And Bill DeWitt was on the radio today talking about how important that is for him, the legacy of Yachty and Wainwright. And he actually mentioned the fact that he really regretted the fact that Albert didn't get to finish his career to this point in St. Louis. So throwing on the conspiracy hat there, but maybe Albert Pujols sometime in July ends up being that player to be named later.
Even if it's not with the DH in play, is it more so just a matter of a guy that can come off the bench and really more so the mentorship, the leadership that hey, I'm a Cardinal great, I'm coming back, we're hitting it for one more run. Is that kind of what you're looking at?
Yeah, I mean, can you imagine being in the 8th or 9th inning at Busch Stadium going into September and the pitcher spot comes up and Albert walks on deck to come up to pinch hit? Can you imagine how insane that ballpark would go?
Absolutely insane.
Yeah, and I hope by then, Scott, we get full stadiums, and that does happen. I remember being at the first game. Albert was back. You were working that game, I know, Scott, but the ovation he got as a visiting player was unbelievable. But the fact that pissed me off the most was the fact it took so long. Why did it take so long to get him back here? What was that, the 8th year of that contract? They could have at least brought him back once before that.
It's the way Major League Baseball does scheduling. I'll say this, though. I think it was the right amount of time. I think if he would have come back 3 or 4 years earlier, I think there would have been a lot of people that still would have had hard feelings, and there might have been some boos. I think the fact that it took so long was actually a good thing because, those wounds were kind of healed and everybody was happy to see him. And I'll tell you this, man, that home run that he hit on that Saturday afternoon, that ovation in that ballpark, I mean, you can feel that ballpark shaking like you used to feel the old Busch Stadium. I mean, that feeling was unbelievable.
It was. I was able to get a chance to go to one of those games as well and give my admiration for what Albert Pujols did for St. Louis. And I would love to be able to go back and do it one more time with him in the birds on the bat. And this is an interesting concept that kind of came up over the last week as well, just talking to some people on Facebook. Obviously, he's got that 10-year appearance clause from the Angels. Does that go away if he is traded back to the Cardinals, or is that something he's obligated to do? Because talk about a guy that's going to be going into the Hall of Fame, a guy that will have his number retired by the Cardinals. Yes, there are some people out there that don't believe he will have it retired by the Cardinals. Don't know why. And is that something that would hinder that process happening if that appearance clause is, invoked?
I was wondering that too. I'm not 100% sure about that, but there's absolutely no question. Anybody that wonders that number 5 will be retired by the Cardinals. His image will be on the left field wall, and at some point there will be a statue of Albert Pujols outside that ballpark because, even though he did leave, he's still going to go down as the second greatest Cardinal behind Stan the Man. I mean, he just is, and one of the greatest players in baseball history.
Is it behind Stan the Man at this point? Knowing the 11 greatest, he gave St. Louis the 11 greatest years we have ever seen. As Stan the Man, I'm not saying he's not a great Cardinal, and he should be up there, but I think Albert surpassed him a little bit, at least since I've been alive.
Well, no. If Albert would have stayed, he probably would have passed Stan if he would have stayed and put up all these numbers as a Cardinal. But all the numbers that Stan put up, you got to remember that when Stan Musial retired, he had the highest batting average of any right-handed hitter in Major League history. He was like 5th in hits. He was 3rd or 4th in home runs. I mean, he was at the very top of the top when he retired. And Albert's going to be close to that, but because of the fact that he left, he will always play second fiddle to Stan.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, that's exactly what the case is. I mean, he's always going to be right there, but he's never going to be able to pass Stan Musial because of the longevity that Stan the Man had here. And Albert's still going to be revered here in St. Louis. He's still loved in St. Louis. The fact that we can still go back to that game against Houston where he destroyed Brad Lidge and go, man, that was an awesome moment. Cardinals didn't win the World Series that year. They didn't even make it to the World Series, and yet people still look back and go, man, that's one of my top moments as a Cardinal fan, seeing that home run. That's what Albert did for St. Louis, and it wasn't just on the diamond as well. It was everything off the diamond with his charities and his community work and all of that, which is why people in St. Louis love him. And I just want to go back to Scott's point about the time that he was gone. It took 8 years for him to come back. I think it was the exact right amount of time because fans got to see for an extended period of time what the Cardinals avoided in a sense. And I'm not trying to diminish what Albert's done, but people were upset that they didn't give him a 10-year contract. But after 8 years and him only playing roughly, 2/3 of the games that he had potential to play in, and seeing what the Cardinals were able to get and build in that time frame, I think most fans were like, okay, we got the best years of Albert Pujols. We're happy that he got his money. He comes back. We're able to celebrate him. If he comes back in year 3 and he's still playing kind of as the Albert of old, people are like, man, what the hell? He's still got it. What are we missing? And that's where you get all the boos. But 8 years, I think, was enough. And I would love to see him finish his career in a St. Louis Cardinals uniform for sure.
Yeah, I mean, that would just be the perfect ending. And like I said, for him to be able to finish it, have one more run, and then for him and Yadi and Waino, as close as the three of them have always been, to be able to end it together with a playoff run would just be – that would be like a storybook ending. It really would.
I can see it right now. Here's how the season is going to end. Adam Wainwright's on the mound closing out Game 7 of the World Series. The ball is just barely tipped off the bat in front of the plate to Yadier Molina, who leaps up like a cat, pounces on the ball, throws it to Albert Pujols at first base. The three of them collapse into each other's arms before walking off as the sun is setting in St. Louis on another championship.
That would be a beautiful thing, that's for sure.
That would be an absolute beautiful thing. Well, we're going to come back here in just a moment. We're going to continue talking about our big things here on Crunch Time. But we're going to take a break here real quick, and we'll be right back here on ASTV Productions. And we're back here on Crunch Time on ASTV Productions. The Blues game has just gone final, a 2-0 loss to the LA Kings, another shutout for Jonathan Quick. And it looked like the Kings were playing like they were back in their Stanley Cup run days. Dustin Brown with a goal. Like I said, Jonathan Quick, a 30-save shutout. Just kind of a discombobulated Blues team tonight, losing Carl Gunnarsson as well to a decently serious leg injury. We're not sure the extent just yet. He did not return. This is a team that is absolutely dealing with a ton of injuries, a ton of issues right now. And you would think that when you're playing San Jose and LA for essentially 6 to 7 games, you're going to be getting a bunch of points. Well, so far, not so good for the St. Louis Blues.
Not at all.
I mean, you hit it right. Go ahead, Joe.
Not at all. And the sad part is this team, it's like they can't get a goal when they need it anymore. I've talked about this a lot. I mean, they're one of the top 5.
Didn't they come back from a 4-1 deficit on Saturday and almost force overtime?
How often are they scoring 4 goals, though? How often are they scoring the most opportune goal?
I'm pretty sure they scored the most opportune goal in the first game against San Jose to send it into overtime, which is where they won.
But here's the thing. They're starting to get goals from Hoffman. There's David Perron. I mean, what do you think of Perron's play this year? Because he looks good and then he looks bad some games. What have you seen from Perron? Because he's like an iffy bag from me. Yes, he scored the game winner the other night, but it's not like he's been one of the best players on this team.
I mean, teams saw what he did last year, so they're keying in on him. The same thing with Ryan O'Reilly. He's not putting in a bunch of goals yet right now either, but they're both playing solidly offensively. The big issue right now is the Blues' defensive game and getting out of their own zone. It's something I've harped on for the last few years. They cannot make clean breaks from their own zone, and we saw that once again tonight on that Dustin Brown goal. Zach Sanford had a chance to clear that puck up the boards, and he decided for the second game in a row to put it back in his own zone in an opportune area for a player to steal the puck and put a shot on goal. It's just the sheer ineptitude of some of these guys not thinking about the smart play, trying to do way too much. And it's coming down to two players. And it's the two players that we've kind of always been talking about. And it's Zach Sanford and Vince Dunn. Both these guys have struggled mightily this year. Yes, Vince Dunn had a great couple of games after he was benched. But for the most part, he's been the same Vince Dunn all year. I mean, I talked about this on Blue Notes Pod last night. The goal that he allowed against Marlowe on Saturday night, his face was like, huh? Where'd he come from? He wasn't there around the nets ever, right? I mean, come on. You're a defender in the NHL. You got to have situational awareness. You have to know where the players are at on the ice. Maybe not 100% of the time, but when you're in your own zone and you're near your net, and don't even get me started on Vince Dunn around his own net. On that second goal, when the puck was behind the net, he was in the crease. Like, you have a goaltender. Get out of the fucking crease. Play the man in front of the puck or in front of the net and don't allow him to get a shot on goal. Why are you in the crease? So it comes down to a couple guys that you hate to harp on them because they are professional players. But right now, when you look at the Blues, there's two guys that jump to your mind when something goes wrong. And right now it's Sanford and Dunn.
Yeah. And a lot of people have compared Sanford to Berglund, the way he used to play. Now, granted, he's not as big as Patrick Berglund, but you kind of see the comparison a little bit, the way he's been playing. Wags?
I was going to let Scott go on that one, but yeah, I definitely see comparisons on that.
Do you see it, Scott?
Yeah, a little bit. I see it. You know, and I think Wags hit a lot of it on the head. You got a bunch of guys trying to do too much right now. They're trying to compensate for the fact that they have so many people injured, and they're trying to do more than they're capable of or more than they need to try to do. And when you start doing that in any sport, you know, things go bad quickly, and that's what's happening to some of these guys. And then they get in their own heads, and they're thinking too much on the ice, whether it looks like they're actually thinking or not. You know, that just compounds everything as well.
Yeah, and the Blues got down to 5 defensemen tonight. That obviously doesn't help as well. I mean, because you're having your defenders having to cycle a lot more minutes. Torrey Krug at one point had back-to-back shifts of over a minute and a half. You're putting your guys into positions that they're going to fail in, unfortunately. And you just look at the laundry list of injuries this team has right now. Yeah, Sammy Blais came back tonight because his false positive was determined and he was able to play tonight, but you're still missing guys. You know, you're missing Schwartz, Barbashev, obviously Parayko's out, Gunnarsson's out. You lose Scott Perunovich, who was a guy that maybe would have been able to come in and fill in some of these minutes for guys that may have gone out. I mean, it just keeps adding up and adding up and adding up. Obviously, Vladimir Tarasenko's not back. Tyler Bozak skated today, but still not ready to come back and play. Maybe he comes back on Wednesday, but this team has a lot of injuries right now. And at this point, they're struggling to deal with it because of all the lineup changes. But if you consistently get some of these guys playing on the same line, I think you're going to start to see a bit of a turnaround. This is the best time for this to happen. I know you don't want to have a good time for injuries, but it is the best time. You're playing the Sharks, you're playing the Kings, you're playing the Ducks. Yes, you want to get as many points as possible, but at least you're not giving up points to Vegas or to Colorado when you're playing them. Right now, the Blues are in a stretch where they're playing San Jose, LA, and Anaheim. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. The next 10 games, including the last 3, are going to be against the Sharks, Kings, or Ducks. You got to get as many points as you possibly can in these moments, and you really got to hope that by the time March 12th rolls around, that you got a good majority of these injured players back. Obviously, Thomas and Barbashev are going to be out 6 weeks, so you can't really count on them, but you need to get the Bozaks back. You need to get the Paraykos back. You need to get most of these guys that are able to come back from these minor injuries back and in shape, ready to go by the time the 12th hits, because after that, you've got Vegas 3 times in March, but it's when you get into April, you've got Colorado, Vegas, Colorado again, another matchup with Arizona, 3 more against Colorado. And don't forget, you got to play 7 times against Minnesota in April into May 1st. And yes, Minnesota isn't a great team, but they're a sound playing team and they're a boring team. And that's somebody that the Blues have trouble with. And I could see that being kind of a crucial set of games when it gets into April.
Very crucial. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, we were talking about all the people that they're missing, and we've kind of jumped over it. But the fact that Colton Parayko hasn't been healthy all year, and from the reports today, it doesn't sound good. I mean, how huge is that hit to that defense? I mean, he was supposed to be the guy that stepped in and kind of took Petro's spot, and he hasn't been right all year. And I mean, I hate to say this, but from everything I heard today, I think it's very unlikely that he's going to be healthy this year if we see him on the ice again this year.
That hurts. And that really does. I mean, it's a back injury potentially, and we know that those are not something you want to mess with, whether it's surgery or not. And you could tell that something was wrong with him this year. And now that you know kind of it might be a back issue, it all makes sense. The fact that he's not shooting as much, the fact that he's skating more, upright and not really like leaning into his strides, the fact that he's not hitting as much, it does all kind of make sense. And wow, that would be a huge blow, especially with Perunovic being out. Because if, at the very least, if you had a guy like a Perunovic and a Mikkola that could step in, you could probably weather the storm of no Parayko because you have Krug and Falk, who's playing very, very well this year. I would be shocked if Nico Mikkola is not a mainstay in this lineup going forward, regardless on the Gunnarsson injury. But now that Gunnarsson is out, I think it's almost a must that you have a guy like Mikkola in the lineup to provide that size and that skill on the back end.
And don't forget about Jake Wallman. I wonder how much of the play he's going to get on the back end. I mean, I know they had him playing forward, but he's up here for a reason.
I'd actually like to see him play a little bit more on the wing. I think he had a pretty good game on Saturday, and I honestly think he might be better suited to play as a winger. I'd like to see that experiment continue this year.
Couldn't hurt.
So, like I said, a 2-0 victory for the Kings tonight. The Blues drop points in a game that they probably should have won. They didn't play all that great. Didn't get a whole lot of shots on that. I mean, 30 shots is still pretty good, but Jonathan Quick was playing like he was in the Stanley Cup days. He always seems to get up for games against the Blues. We got one more matchup with them coming up on Wednesday before we travel to San Jose for a game on Saturday night. Unfortunately, the game on Wednesday, 8:30. Like, come on.
Yep. That's the fun of being in the West, man.
Yeah, but hey, thankfully we haven't had a lot of 8 o'clock, 8:30 starts. I mean, that's the saving grace about this. We kind of had a feeling going in that the NHL was going to work with the Blues in terms of this. So, and they have, especially with no fans in the stands are limited.
Yeah, but the fans are now in the stands, which is really, really good. You're starting to see in St. Louis, at least, you're getting limited fans. The number grew between the two series that they played at home. So the first series, I think they had somewhere in the range of like 5,000 to 8,000 across the series, and now we're up to about 12 for the 4 games. So I think you're going to start to see slow increases back of fans, and that's great because the NHL is kind of a test subject in a sense for concerts and things of that nature, because you're getting people in an enclosed environment and you're seeing how all the protocols are going to be working. And that's a great thing because St. Louis was set to host a bunch of stuff. Obviously the gymnastics trials are supposed to be here this year for the Olympics. There's always the potential for, college basketball here. You're going to have Frozen 4 here in a few years. That's a few years out, and you hope by then we're at max capacity anyway. But what they're doing right now is really setting the stage for the ability for concerts to come back this year as well. And that's a huge, huge thing to look at.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And it's also helping Major League Baseball and the outdoor sports start to look around and see what they can do too, how they can add numbers and that kind of stuff. So, yeah, everything that the NHL and the NBA both are doing right now is helping for sure.
And Scott, once again, since you are a part of the Cardinals organization in a sense with the working down at Busch, any other new updates when it comes to that? I know that 8 to 12 has kind of been the number that's been bandied about, but has anything like officially been set? Are there any updates or changes to that?
That's still where we're at right now. I know that they had a meeting with the city and we're trying to iron out numbers. Last week, we haven't gotten a report. I know we're supposed to all get together sometime in the middle of March and start working on some stuff. So, sometime in the next couple of weeks, I should have a little more detail on that kind of stuff.
And the Blues are really strict about, the mask wearing and everything. You can only take your mask off to eat something, and then you have to put it back on the shoe. Like, there are some instances where they're not being as strict on it, but in some sections, from what I hear, it's really strict. So
why would they only be strict in certain sections, though?
I don't know. It's weird. I mean, I'm just going off of, the fan experience. I mean, there's people going to games and they post about it, so it's like they're really strict on it. So that's a good thing. But putting it back on Tuchu, I don't know. That's weird. I don't know.
I mean, people have been using the masks as like saddlebags since this whole thing down, just putting some snacks in their mask and eating them through there. So it's not like it's a difficult thing to do.
That's true.
So, oh boy. So yeah, hopefully we'll get some more fans in the stands here very, very shortly. And hopefully that means good things for us too, because if there are fans in the stands, that means us going on remotes might actually start to be something that can happen as well. And we're hoping to have some of those things coming up here very, very shortly. We're working on getting some stuff set up, and hopefully we can announce some of those here very, very soon as well. I got a lot of great things in store for Crunch Time for all of your fans as well. We're going to be announcing our winners for our giveaway that we kind of posted a little bit about last week as well. We're up to 710 likes now and almost close to 800 followers. When we hit 700 likes, we decided we're going to give some merchandise away, and we'll be announcing that here in the next couple of days as well. And when we reach 800, we're going to do the same exact thing. So if you have friends and you don't get a chance to win this set of merchandise issues, then get your friends to like the page so that the next time it rolls around, you do have another chance to get some of the Crunch Time merchandise. And just so you know, we do have a merch page. It's on Teespring. You see the ticker tape down here, shows you the website. You get 10% off your first order for using Crunch. We had, guys, our first official sale last night.
Cool. That's good news.
That's awesome. Let's keep it going.
Yeah, well, it was somebody that saw the Tom Ackerman post about his giveaway for the T-shirt we gave him. Went to a really nice person. Very excited about that. And they're like, dude, where can do you have some available? Can I get one? I'm like, yeah, go to this page. I sent him the link, and literally within 10 minutes, he had bought one. So make sure you jump on the Crunch Time merchandise train. We got some great stuff. We got the Arenado political T-shirt. A lot of other really cool things. Make sure you check that out as well. Coming up next here on Crunch Time, we're going to dive into our big things again. So make sure you guys come back for that here on Crunch Time on ASTV Productions. And we're back here on Crunch Time on ASTV Productions. Wags, Joe, and Scott talking all things sports. And guys, let's go ahead and jump into our big things tonight as we get closer to the end of the show. Joe, what's your big thing for tonight?
I never understood the delay of game rule in hockey. I mean, you shoot it up over the net. Over the glass. I get it to a certain extent, but I don't. But there's a lot more in hockey that cause stoppages. Why have that rule in place anyway?
Because it's to avoid teams from, essentially delaying the game when they're on the penalty kill or things of that nature. When you had a penalty kill and you were getting hemmed into your zone, the standard was, okay, flip it out of play, get a stoppage, get fresh guys out on the ice. Well, they don't allow that to happen now. You have to think smart, and it keeps the game flowing. It gives you more opportunities for offensive possessions. And I think that was the big thing, is they just don't want you to have the ability to just chuck the puck out of play from your own zone and get a face-off, get a rest, and stop momentum. It's all about keeping that momentum, something I don't necessarily believe in, but that's the whole impetus behind it. And yeah, there are other things that cause stoppages in play. Yeah, the puck still goes out of play. There's a whistle, but it's more so it's a competitive advantage if you can just chuck the puck out of your own end out of play and get a stoppage when you're getting hemmed in. We saw it with the Blues tonight. They got hemmed in a couple of different times during the game, and if they would have been able to just flip the puck over the ice or the glass, the pressure stops. Well, because they couldn't do that, LA was able to kind of retain possession, push, and sometimes those lead to goals.
That's very true. That was a good explanation there, Wax.
I try. It's almost like I play. It's odd like that.
That's weird.
Oh man. So hopefully that answers Joe's question as we get him back on here. Maybe I don't know. Hey, wait. Are we playing that game of add and remove where we both try to add each other and it just doesn't work out?
No, I don't know what the hell happened there. I'm just not gonna even go there. But yeah, I just wanted more clarity on that because it just seems like a dumb rule. I mean, I know it's been in hockey for as long as time's been around, but
no, it hasn't. It came out after the second lockout is where it came in. It hasn't been around the game forever. It's still a relatively new rule.
Still a relatively new. Well, do you think it's better for the game or not? That's probably when I got booted. So you think it's better for the game or is it not good for the game?
Like I said earlier, I think the spirit of the rule makes sense, but the execution of it is kind of suspect. Obviously, you can't make a judgment call and say, oh, a guy was intending to chip it out versus not. I think that's where people get upset is it's like, well, he didn't mean to chip it over the glass and not hit it. Yes, but it's an objective call. So, yes, does the timing of it suck sometimes? Totally. But I understand the spirit of it, and I think that's why it's still a part of the game.
Okay. I don't think it's going anywhere, but I just don't know if I like the rule. I think it's so dumb. Especially, I remember Colton Parayko doing that in the finals a couple years ago, and I never quite liked it ever since. So thank you guys for clearing that up.
I mean, the Blues won the Stanley Cup that year, so I don't think it hurt them that much.
It didn't hurt them that much, but it hurt them in terms of ending it at home.
No, that did not. That was not the determination of why they did not win that game at home. There was a lot of things wrong with that game, so that was the least of their concerns in my mind.
The least of their concerns? I don't know, man. I think that had a lot to do with it because that put Boston on a 5-on-3 power play, so it kind of had something to do with it.
Wasn't that game like 6-0 or something? Like it was ugly, wasn't it? That last game at home.
Yeah,
I thought they ended up scoring a goal late, but I guess not.
Yeah, so instead of 6-0, it was like 6-1. And once again, did the Blues win the Stanley Cup that year?
Yes.
So it doesn't matter what happened in Game 6. They won Game 7, and they hoisted Lord Stanley's Cup. So that's all that really matters in my mind. Scott, what do you got for tonight?
So I don't know if you guys checked this out or not, but Major League Baseball came out with their power rankings for teams today. And I'm going to run down the top 10 and tell me what you guys think of this because I see a giant omission here. So Major League Baseball's top 10 power rankings for teams today. The Dodgers are number 1. The Padres are number 2. The Yankees are 3. The Braves are 4. The Mets are 5. The White Sox are 6. The Twins are 7. The Blue Jays are 8. The Rays are 9. The Astros are 10. It seems to me that there's a ball club missing in that top 10 somewhere that maybe wears red with a little bird sitting on a bat. What do you guys think?
Oh, Baltimore? Baltimore's not in there?
Yep, that's it. How are the Cardinals not in there?
I don't know. I mean, I can understand, and Lester chimes in, yeah, the Cardinals are at number 11, but still, that this team is better than the Astros. They're not going to have Verlander this year. Their rotation isn't all that great. They lost George Springer. They've got to be better than probably the 6 of those teams. I would say better than the White Sox. Yeah, I'm looking at the Dodgers, the Padres, the Yankees. I can see them being the top 3, but I think Cardinals 4 or 5 in that range is probably acceptable. I don't understand the method. And that's after the Pacoda rankings came out and put the Cardinals at like what 3rd at 500 this year. Like, come on.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, the Astros don't have Verlander. The Rays, lived and died with their pitching last year. Well, they got rid of Blake Snell, and and they got rid of what the guy that went to Atlanta, Charlie Morton. So
Charlie
their two
Morton.
best pitchers aren't there anymore. How are they ahead of the Cardinals? Yeah, the Blue Jays have no pitching. Minnesota has no pitching. I mean, I don't understand. I don't think the Cardinals should be 3 or 4, but they definitely should be ahead of 2 or 3 of those teams at least, in my mind. What do you think, Joe?
Well, you kind of have to unmute yourself there, Joe.
Yeah.
I can't do it.
Sorry. I thought you could, but I think these predictions people or these power rankings, they don't follow Pacoda, and that's a good thing.
But they have the Cardinals at 11.
They have the Cardinals at 11, and actually, you're right. Now that I think about it, I was listening elsewhere. But yeah,
it was Scott talking. I totally understand.
no,
You don't
I'm
like listening to
sorry.
Scott.
No. I'm sorry, Scott. But no, seriously though, the Cardinals at 11 just makes no sense. After the Arenado trade and having Paul Goldschmidt, you could see Paul Goldschmidt having a bounce back season. It's hard to say bounce back season because it was a 60-game season. You couldn't really get your season going, really. But you know what? The fact that the Cardinals are at 11 makes me want to cringe. Like it's almost like seeing the Pacoda rankings. It's like, why? Who comes up with this stuff? I mean, you have to wonder about these big-time lists. Who comes up with this sort of thing? Because the Cardinals at 11 just does not make sense.
Well, and I can tell you already, I'm already sick of the Dodgers-Padres talk. Everybody already thinks they're the only 2 teams in the National League that matter, and I'm already tired of it.
Well, and that's the thing, Scott. I mean, you've locked up a generational talent in probably the next face of baseball in Fernando Tatis Jr. You still have Machado. You still have Hosmer. You've acquired some pitching. The Dodgers, you still have Clayton Kershaw. You have a good team. You just won the World Series. But I agree with you because I don't like the West Coast bias. It's always been there, and I've never understood why. It's always West Coast, East Coast.
Big market.
Nothing in the middle matters.
Big markets.
I think that's bullshit, Wags.
It's big markets.
I know.
Where does the money come from?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, it's the money, and it's where the broadcast hubs are. They're on the East and the West Coast. So, but yeah, it's just going to get old because they're already, it's going to be the Dodgers, the Padres are going to turn into the Yankees, Red Sox, where, like ESPN thinks those are the only 4 teams that play Major League Baseball. I think the Cardinals are going to be there. I think a lot of it has to do with people don't seem to respect our pitching because we have got a bunch of kids and not really those big names. So I guess that's part of it because when you look at some of the projections for our pitching, it's awful. Like they're not even projecting the Cardinals pitching to be like in the top 10 in the National League. So I think that's a lot of it is the Cardinals don't have any big names really in their pitching staff as far as, even Flaherty isn't really considered a big name anymore after last year. A lot of people think that he was kind of a one-year flop. So we'll see. But I do think they should be in the top 10. And I still think Jake Odorizzi may end up in St. Louis. I think the longer this drags out, the better chances are that he ends up here.
Why does Mozeliak keep saying, oh, we love this team, we love this team, we love this team? Why haven't they gone and done it yet? At this point, you'd think by now.
So do you want your general manager and your president of operations to go, man, I just don't have confidence in this rotation. We've got to go out and get a pitcher. Like, do you really want that to be what your president of operations says?
Not at all. I'm just saying if we can find that other piece, kind of be coy about it.
But he is being coy about it.
That's what he's doing. That's exactly what he's doing. It's just like, do you remember the day they got Nolan Arenado? He had a press conference that day because Wainwright had signed the day before, and he had a press conference that day and said, "We're pretty happy with our team right now. Matt Carpenter is our third baseman as of right now." That's what he said the last couple of times. We really like this team. We don't see any additions to the major league roster, but never say never. He's leaving that door open, but he's not going, "Oh yeah, Jake Odorizzi, please come here," because. And like I said to you the other day, Joe, they would love to have Jake Odorizzi, but they're not going to bring him in on Jake Odorizzi's number. They're going to bring him in with the number that they're comfortable with. And if they don't get to that point, they won't do it. But I think the longer this drags out, the better chance there is that they come to that point where they can agree on a deal.
And it's exactly what the Cardinals have done. It's what they did with Yachty. It's what they've done with Wainwright. It's kind of what they did with Nolan Arenado in a sense. Yes, they couldn't necessarily control that to an extent, but Colorado was put in such a bind. I mean, who else pays somebody $50 million to take a star player off their hands? So the Cardinals have done a pretty good job in the waiting game. And honestly, if Adam Wainwright would have gone somewhere else, if Yadier or Molina would have gone somewhere else, it would have hurt this team, yes, but they were prepared to move on. And I think they're prepared to move on if a guy like Jake Odorizzi doesn't sign with the Cardinals. And that's the whole point of saying, yes, we're happy with our team. You want your players to sit there and say, okay, they're happy with what we get. And if they bring in a guy like Odorizzi, they say, hey, we have a great team, but he just adds to the greatness of this team. You never want to sit there and say, oh, yeah, my team's not good enough, because that doesn't engender you to your fan base or even your team. Your team sits there and goes, wait a second, we're not good enough? So why do I have to go out there and put my all out there? So that's the whole point of saying we like our team the way it is. And then you go out and make a move and say, hey, it just makes the team better.
Yeah. Yeah. And you don't want to say that, hey, we need a pitcher, because Jake Odorizzi's agent will be all over that.
Yeah, that's for sure. And boys, I know we're getting close to the end, but there was something I shared with you, and I know we're getting off topic a little bit, but I shared something with you about the Seattle Mariners CEO / president. And John Boy Media did something like a breakdown of what he said and everything. And I got to say, who says that about their players? I don't know if you guys got to watch the video. Go ahead.
Kind of tell everybody what you're talking about in case people don't know who you're talking about or what you're talking about.
So the Mariners CEO / president goes on a Zoom call with the Mariners Rotary Club. You know, the club, I guess, season ticket holders, whatever. He basically bashes his players and says, oh, this guy doesn't speak good English. This guy has an attitude problem. This guy this guy that. And he resigned right away after those reports came out. And I got to ask, who in the hell says that about a guy who is an employee? Who says that about somebody? And he sounded gutless saying it. Not like he had any resentment in saying any of this shit. He said it, and he's like, I don't care what I said. It's like he had plans to resign all along. So you guys watched it. What's your reactions to it? Because I was infuriated watching this.
Well, I was in shock watching it. You know, who goes in front of your team's Rotary Club and starts ranting like that, and then apparently thought they were going to clean it up so that nobody would hear his comments. Like, he literally told them, you're going to clean up this audio, right? It's like, who does that? And, you know, if he's like that, what does that say about the Seattle Mariners organization? Because if he has those thoughts, do you think everybody working underneath him has that same attitude and those same thoughts? I mean, it just talks about what a train wreck that organization's been for the last almost 20 years now.
And he's almost like, oh, yay, we're lowballing guys and we're proud of it. You know, and he called Kyle Seager overpaid. That makes no sense to me at all. You do not say that about your players. Go ahead, Wags. I'm sure you saw it too, and I'm sure you have an opinion on this.
Yeah, it's reprehensible. It's reprehensible. It's frankly just not something you need to be talking about. And, you know, just reading some of the stuff and, you know, reading the ESPN article that came out about it, basically it says in the story, Mather spoke about former Mariners pitcher Hisasha Iwakuma, who was hired in January as a special assignment coach at the club, and his need for an interpreter and his English skills. And he basically said, quote, he wanted to get back into the game. He came to us. We quite frankly want him as our Asian scout interpreter. What's going on with the Japanese league? He's coming to spring training. And I'm going to say I'm tired of paying his interpreter, end quote. Like, that's like, I understand the need for you to, you know, watch your payroll and maybe find creative ways to, you know, maybe get somebody to do double duty or something to that effect. But that's not the way you go about saying it. Like, that's super insensitive, just the wrong thing to do. And it's just not the message or the way that Major League Baseball, the Seattle Mariners, or anybody really should be presented. And it's just I'm glad that they got rid of him, but like Scott said, what does that look like as far as the Mariners are concerned? Because somebody else had to have, this is not the first time that these opinions were voiced, and someone had to sit there and been like, wow, he said this. Maybe I should say something to somebody higher up and say, hey, this is what's going on. What are you going to do about it? And if nobody did that, wow, is about all I got to say.
Yeah. It's just a bad look for the whole organization, and that organization hasn't had anything positive happen to them or for them in a really long time.
Okay, yeah.
They really haven't. So that's going to do it for us tonight here on Crunch Time, here on ASTV Productions. See, I almost did it again. ASTV Productions. Great show tonight. We're going to be back tomorrow with Joe's interview with Rod Peterson. Make sure you check that out. That's going to be a big time interview for all of our Canadian listeners. They know who Rod Peterson is. For our American listeners, you're going to get a chance to actually meet him and figure out what he's all about. So make sure you check out that here at 9:00 tomorrow on ASTV Productions with Crunch Time. Check out our interview earlier today with Dan Reeder from the Springfield Cardinals. And make sure you check out our radio show on Sundays on KYRO 1280 AM, 105.3 FM, 9 to 11 Sunday mornings. For Scott, for Joe, I am Wags. Have a great rest of your night and enjoy the week.